So are there regional considerations here for weed control in hemp?
Yes, there are. Some species are not uniformly distributed across the United States. There are certain geographies that have different problems. I think across most of the midwestern cropping region, the amaranthus species are a problem. If you're familiar with amaranthus seed, it's basically, they're plants in the same genus as that food crop that have become dominant agricultural weeds. And they've evolved resistances to multiple herbicides that have become a critical part of our crop production systems. So as they evolve very quickly, we're losing some of the herbicide tools that our farmers have relied upon. And there's something very special about those weeds. So those amaranthus weeds are dioecious, meaning that there are males and there are females, and they have to cross-pollinate to produce seeds. And those are the only species in our system that are what we call driver weeds that are evolving herbicide resistance so quickly. So the genetic exchange between those plants is, in a sense, driving evolution and genetic variation. And of course, the plant that we're introducing into the system, this is our first dioecious plant, as far as I've worked with, that is a crop species now.
And does that bring with it other challenges?
Well, potentially, right? Because hemp is it's the original weed, right?
Right. Hence the name, yeah.
So we have in Illinois Victory hemp left over from World War II era that still grows in the ditch banks and roadsides around agricultural fields. So it still exists. It still is persistent. So that's another research question. In the fields where we're growing hemp for a crop, we're going to have to manage those volunteers as we rotate into other crops. So how easy is that going to continue to be? Are we going to be able to continue to manage hemp, which is very susceptible right now to the herbicides that we use? So right now, yes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you kind of brought up the ditch weed that that is still out there. Is that a weed for all intents and purposes for if you're growing hemp? Could that potentially be an issue?
Well, it depends, right? If you're growing floral CBD hemp, then yes, that is an issue for you and your product quality, and potentially for other crops as well. But I think more importantly, it's important to consider that as a reservoir for very important genetic traits that might be useful for future crop production. Those plants have existed for decades successfully in these areas. They are tolerant to the environmental conditions that they're being exposed to and to the ecological interactions. So that shouldn't be dismissed. I don't think they should be devalued. I think that in the future they could have a very real a very real contribution to future breeding programs.